Attention readers and leaders, world-renowned author Jordan Wells has teamed up with Hip Hop News Uncensored for a special offer just for you. That's right. I want everybody listening under the sound of my voice to click on the link at the top line of the description box and make sure you go grab yourself one of his many books right now. I'm guaranteeing you this book, any one of these books, will change your life and the way that you see things. The link is at the top of the description box. Ready, set, go. Interested in promoting your brand, business, or talent on Hip Hop News Uncensored? Hit me up right now at advertise at hiphopun.com.
And the third time on the program today, very excited, man. We're going to get into some of the current topics that people need to hear about today. So let's start off with the DMX. Yeah. You know, the other day the news came out that DMX suffered from a drug overdose, then a subsequent heart attack, and we found out today that his brainwave is pretty much hasn't improved from the day that he, was in this coma. So, Dr. Boyce Watkins, how do you feel about DMX, his situation right now, drug abuse, et cetera, et cetera?
Obviously, it's very sad. It's really sad because everybody saw it coming. You always knew that there was going to be that one day where, where he wasn't coming back, or and I hope he comes back from this, but we know what the reality is, and I think that it reminds us of a lot of things, in particular what drugs can do to people and what they've done to the Black community. There's probably been $10 trillion worth of potential that's been killed in our community because of dope. And I have very little tolerance or patience for anybody that, on any level is acting like this is okay. I have a big problem when I hear any music that is promoting drug abuse, because this is the way it ends. This is what happens. You get, when you're young and, everything it seems pretty cool, Molly's and Percocets and all that stuff. But when you get about late 30s, early 40s, it starts to look real pathetic and real sad, and you start looking back on your life and realizing all the great things you could have done, and you didn't do any of those things because the drugs became everything, and with DMX, there were a few artists that had the impact that DMX had. There almost really nobody. I mean, in terms of the amount of time that when he was at full throttle, nobody could touch DMX. He was hotter and stronger than Jay-Z, in my view, when he first came out, and he would have stayed that way. He could have become a billionaire off of that. But instead, it's going to end like this. And it's not so much to look at him and say, oh, it's your fault, you messed up or whatever. DMX tells that, told a really powerful story about being introduced to drugs at an early age by somebody that was supposed to be his mentor. And what that really speaks to, I tend to see, I just see things as a Black man, is that we must not underestimate the importance of that role that we have as a guide and a mentor to young people that are behind us. I know other guys. I literally thought of another guy I knew who I was very close to, who died in an equally sad way. Well, not that DMX is dead. He's not dead yet, but right. And he too, at an early age, was introduced to, the weed and the liquor and all that. And that became a part of his life forever. So I really think we got to rethink our relationship with drugs. And I really think we have to really, really be okay with speaking up when you see, whether it's artists or anybody, promoting drugs like it's okay, like it's no big deal. Because there is a point where the party is over and it gets real tragic after that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that whole situation where who's supposed to be one of his mentors laced a joint that he had, ultimately getting him addicted to crack at, I believe, 14 years of age, and that hitting him very emotionally. And then we know what kind of depth this brother hit, from his music to his interviews to his movies. He was always the shining star wherever he was throughout a very prominent time in rap. I think it was Dark and Hell Hot dropped in 98. From then on, it was on. But talk about that. How bad is that in our communities? The OGs and the people we're supposed to be looking up to kind of setting us up for failure in some of our communities. How much of a responsibility do we have to hold as Black men to not do these sort of things to our young men?
I mean, Black men are everything when it comes to our community making a comeback. We can't come back without the Black man. Mm-hmm. Our women will never grow testicles, no matter how much everybody wants to think that that's that stuff doesn't matter. That's just not true. There's no community ever in the history of this earth that has ever prospered and thrived and been able to defend itself without having strong, capable men. The women have an important role as well, but the men have an equally important role. And so when you're talking about this role as a leader, mentor, role model, there is no role that's more important than that. You know, when I was, my little brother was about 12 years younger than me, and the promise I made to myself when I mentored him, I mean, he followed me around. He did what I said. He walked like me, talked like me, did everything like me. In fact, to this day, he does business with me. We work together every day, you know. And the promise I made to myself when I was about maybe 18 years old was I said, I'm not going to let him down the way somebody else let me down. You know, I'm always going to come through. I'm always going to do my best. I may not always be a winner, but he'll never see me as a quitter. Right. And so I like to believe I kept that promise. And that was a choice. You see, manhood is a choice. And what I think every black man needs to understand is that every day you got a choice to be a man or not be a man. And you also have to make sure you go out of your way to learn what manhood looks like in all of its forms. They promote a certain type of manhood in media that is not conducive to a productive life. We know that, you know, some of the artists literally could write a blueprint on self-destruction. If you ever want to know all the ways you can fuck yourself up, just listen to my song and I'm gonna give you a step-by-step process. And that's deliberately promoted. That's deliberately promoted. And we think that's cool. We think that's manhood, and it's not. And so I encourage any man out here that wants to be a man to understand that a man has to be a pillar for the community. You must be like a rock, like a tent pole. Like the tent only goes as high as the tallest tent pole. So that means your back's up straight. You're doing your best. Doesn't mean you're always perfect. Doesn't mean you have to be Superman. It just means that there is an expectation. There's a choice you make to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do my best. And I saw this from my father, who also overcame a drug addiction. Actually, now I had two fathers. I had a biological father who fell victim to drugs. I mean, drugs is everywhere. I mean, a lot of us can just point to all these places where drugs just messed everything up. You know, drugs, it's one of the worst things that ever happened to us. So my biological father, who was hooked on drugs, went to prison for drugs and all that, was never there. But then I had a stepfather who also came back from Vietnam with a drug addiction. And he just made a choice to say, okay, this is not the life I want. This is the life I want to have. And this is the life I need to have to come through for the people that depend on me. And so we're children. We don't know. We're just like, okay, that's daddy. Daddy's, Superman in our eyes until he proves otherwise. So every day, he told me about choices he had to make in terms of basically kind of just saying that I will not let my family down. Like, no matter what it takes, like almost like being on a football team where you're like, I'm going to do whatever it takes for my team to win. Like, or you go to battle and you say, whatever it takes to win this war. A man has to make that decision because to some extent you are the last line of defense for the people that you love. And when you fall short, when you let somebody convince you that you ain't nothing but a weak little bitch and you're supposed to sit back and let the women take the lead and let the children do everything or whatever it is, or I would have took care of my kids if this hadn't happened. Well, you're destroying an institution because, again, you are the backbone. You are the fabric of that institution. So I personally think that role needs to be one that we need to really contemplate on. It's a great opportunity to do something great. It's also a great opportunity to do something terrible. And you see the consequences of somebody falling short in that role when you look at the life of DMX. But there's millions of other people that could tell equally tragic stories that have happened in their life, too.